Welcome back to the channel, and this should be the fourth and final video of our valve assembly here. So if you want just a quick recap, what we did in the first video was we made our most complicated part, which was going to be here, the actual valve body itself. And then in video number 2, or part 2, what we were able to do was create the washer here, this kind of valve rod and the spring. And then in part 3, what we primarily concentrated on was doing this valve top nut here. And the reason that video I wanted to do that one special is because we actually put in manual threads on that one. Okay, so we did manual on this one, and on part number 1, this one we actually put the symbolic threads, or we let Solidworks do that. Now in this video, what we're going to do is we're just going to do nothing more than create this first sheet using Solidworks. There's going to be more stuff that we can get into if we want to make detailed views and things of that nature, but for the scope and saving time on this video, what we're going to do is put the assembly together. We're going to make an exploded assembly, which I will discuss that a little bit in this video, as well as creating a drawing. So we hopefully can get all of that done in this video. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and click over to the Solidworks. Okay, so make sure that all of your parts are saved and you do know the name of them, and the names that you save them are going to be what's going to appear when we jump into SolidWorks. All right, so we're going to start with the new icon here, and then we're going to go to the assembly view. We'll go ahead and select OK here, and then we'll give SolidWorks a little bit of time to adjust and put itself together. All right. So what you're seeing right now is that I'm already on the assembly view tab. Let me go ahead and turn that off. It's trying to open an actual drawing or a model that I have. Now I haven't created an assembly yet. Let's go ahead and close that. We want to create an assembly, and the first thing I need to do is insert in components. Once again, I'm on the assembly tab. You can add the other tabs if you come and right click in this area here. Come to tabs, and you can see I have the assembly one checked, or you can use the basic one. Both of them will work fine. If I come back and use the basic tool, you'll also see that insert component is listed here. Let's go ahead and select the insert component. And now it's asking me, hey, what component do you want to use? Now, if you have a component open already, that would be ideal. What I'm looking for is parts that I already created. Let's just go ahead and select the browse icon here. And then it's going to pop open with a dialog box asking me which part do I want to use. You can see here I already have some of these parts created. Once again, those are going to be in part 1, 2, and 3 of this series. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring in this valve base here. Once I go ahead and select that, and then I'll hit the open button, it should follow my cursor around. Now remember that the first part that I bring in, it should be grounded and placed at the origin. So when I do a left click, SolidWorks is going to take care of that for me, right? So you see that it kind of moved it over and it put it into position. Now I can adjust that if I wanted to when I brought in the first part, but it's going to be fine the way it is, right? Next part I'm going to go ahead and bring in, it should be the washer, right? So I'll come back to here, I'll browse, I'll go find my washer, go ahead and select the open button, and I'm just going to do a left click here. All right, now I want to go ahead and put this in the position where I want it to be. I'm just going to rotate this up, and then I'm going to start using some mates. So I'll go to mate, and then I'm going to go ahead and select. I'm just waiting on my dialog box over here to change. Okay, that's what I wanted. I'm going to go ahead and grab that circle there, and then we're going to take a look on the inside of here, and I want it to go with that circle. Now you're going to see that both of those are kind of concentric because that's the one that it's going to pick on. And then I do have the option of locking the rotation. Basically, do I want this thing to be able to spin? And in this case, not necessarily. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock the rotation and go ahead and hit the check mark here. So that basically says that, hey, it can go up and down, but it won't spin going clockwise or counterclockwise, right? So let's go ahead and kind of play with this a little bit more. Let's see, let's get out of that command. I just want to move this up a little bit. Okay, next we're going to go back to the make command. Once the dialog box appears over here, I'm just going to rotate up. Now I'm going to grab this face here, And then I'm just going to place it right on the inside of that face there. Okay? Once I hit the OK button on this one, or the accept, you can see that it is locked into that position. Let's get out of the mate. Let's go ahead and bring in the other parts now. Now, I did that one and I could have just brought in all the parts, but on this one I wanted to show you and just kind of step that one in first. These next parts, I'm just going to bring them all in and just kind of have them listed right around here. Alright, so the next one I'm going to bring in, I have the valve and I have the washer. So I have these two. I want to grab these three. I have the spring, the valve nut, and the valve rod. Just going to go ahead and hit the open button. I'll go ahead and select here. And you can see that it placed the first part there, which was the spring. The spring. And then we're going to get to the body nut there, and then we'll go ahead and do the rod. Alright, so that's one of those super neat features that you can select 3, 4, 5 different objects, and then it's going to kind of step you through how you want to place those in. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is let's go ahead and start doing some more mates. I'm going to go ahead and place this rod here, and then I'm going to put it right on the inside of here. And you're going to see that it's going to lock that with a concentric. And then once again, I will lock the rotation on this one. I'll go ahead and accept this. Now, the reason why I'm accepting this and closing this dialog box is because I want to do something extra to this. All right, so I'm just going to grab this and kind of pull it up. Just kind of move that to the side there. And I want to grab this rod and kind of pull it up out of it, right? So you can see that this rod just kind of plunges right through it. Well, I want it to actually stop where it connects with it at. So let's go back to the mate. Once again, I know it's kind of going a little slow and it seems like I'm pausing, but I'm just kind of waiting on this to load up. I'm going to go ahead and select this face here. Then let's rotate and take a look on the inside and then go to this face. All right, so now that is locked down to that position. Let's go ahead and hit the OK button on this one. Next thing I'm going to do is bring in my spring. Now this spring has kind of got a few different steps to it, or a few different other mates that I'm going to have to use in order to get it into position. And the first mate that I'm going to start off by doing is using this bottom kind of shave piece. So remember that we shaved one part of this spring when I created this, actually in the part construction of it. And we did it at the top as well, but that's why I like to do it on both. That way it gives me a nice flat surface, so when I mate it to here, those two are going to be mated to each other, right? So it figured that part out, and that's exactly what I want to happen. Let's go ahead and accept that. And then the next step that I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and try to put, as best as I can, this spring here amongst this center. So there's going to be a couple of different ways that I'm going to do this, right? Well, there's going to be one way I'm going to do this, and you got to kind of think outside the box. If we were using Inventor, Inventor gives us access to those axes that are running up and down. In here, you don't have those options here, and let's go ahead and expand the spring in here. But I do have the origin, so I can select the origin of this one. And then I can go ahead and select this valve here. And you're going to see by default, it tries to go to the tangent. Well, I'm going to say, nope, I want you to go and stay in the concentric of it, and that should move it into position the way you want it. Once that is done, we'll go ahead and accept that. Let's kind of rotate this up, and then the last thing I need to do is put this valve nut on top of it. So let's zoom into here. Let's go ahead and select the inside cylinder there, and then we'll select the cylinder here. It should put those together, being concentric. Let's go ahead and accept that. And then we're going to just kind of rotate this thing to the bottom. We're going to bring this face here down to this face. Okay. Let's go ahead and accept that. And now we're actually done with all of our mates. Let's go ahead and take a look at this in an isometric view. All right. So now our valve is complete. It's fully assembled. Next thing I want to do is I want to start exploding this, right? I want to create an exploded assembly. We have a couple of different ways of getting to the exploded assembly. Now, I turned on the assembly tab here before, and what that allows me to do is gives me access to an exploded assembly. If you don't have this open, you do have the option here underneath this configuration manager. It should be listed here, and then I should be able to select and do a right click on it, and then I can go ahead and add a new exploded view. Either method will work fine with me. They both do exactly the same thing. So once I select here, this dialog box should happen over here. Now we have a few different options of how we can kind of pull this thing apart, right? So I can say, hey, let's go ahead and select this top face here, and then let's also go ahead and do this bottom face, this bottom part here. So I want to pull both of those apart, but I do want them to go in opposite directions. This is what this second one is kind of explaining to us. So you'll see that right now, if I grab this and I pull up, both of them are going to go up together. Well, that's actually not what I want it to do, right? So we're going to kind of undo back here. I have both of them selected. Let's see. It looks like I lost my selection. Let me go ahead and exit out of here and then go back to the exploded view again. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, instead of kind of stepping through both of them that way, I have both of them selected. This time I'm going to select this second option here, which is going to be kind of a radial step. All right. Now watch what happens when I pull this going down. You can see that both of them will indeed open up, right? So that's kind of one of those neat little features here in Solidworks. Now as I open this up, I'll give it a final number here just to make sure everything is accurate. Let's call it 200. Everything opens up that way. And then I can kind of start pulling the rest of this apart, right? So once I hit the check on here, it says, okay, that's great. We can do this one direction or we can do it both directions, right? So I want you to kind of keep that in mind. And you can see I'm just kind of double clicking and playing on this. I actually need to go back and edit this feature just to put me right back in the steps. So I want to add another step here. Now I can either choose to do this one by one, or I can do it in the double step. So if they're kind of going opposite of each other, that's a really good step for this on this radial. So for example, let's go ahead and select my spring here, and then we can select the washer, and then we can do both of them at the same time. Just give it a little bit more room here. That looks good. Or I think I'm going to wind up kind of canceling this step, and then I want to kind of separate those. So you can see that it's not giving me far enough clearance here on the spring, because I do like it to be in a very open area here. So I'm just going to close that off. Let's go ahead and edit this feature again. Okay, so we're going to go back to our normal steps here. I'll go ahead and grab my spring. For some strange reason, come on. There we go. Give me my spring. Let's go ahead and step this back. Oh, it's going back to step one. Okay. And this thing is actually kind of acting a little funny. One more time here. So I'm just going to go to edit feature. I should be able just to go ahead and select my spring. Let's go ahead and put it here. Select the spring. Let's go ahead and get it right in between here. That number there looks like about 140. Looks good to me. And now when I'm actually done with this step, I'm just going to hit the done. And next I'll go to another step here, which is going to select this washer here. And let's bring it down somewhere right in between here. Let's call it 60. All right, perfect. And then we will accept that. So now our view is actually exploded for what we need. We can collapse it. If I do a right click on here, it will collapse it, and I can do a right click back on it and explode it. I can also double click, as you've seen me do before, so I can double click to open it and expand it. We do have one other thing here. We can animate it, right? So if I go here, I'll select here, and now it's going to bring me a dialog box, which is actually telling me kind of what's happening here, right? So you can see that it is kind of going through it, and right now the option that I have it selected on is to collapse and then bring it back together. All right, we can go ahead and stop this here. We do have an option to go ahead and place a movie, and that's what I'll show you next. Now there's all kinds of other stuff that we can make. It does have a storybook option in this, and I'm not going to really go into that too much detail, because if I go into that, this video would be a little bit longer. But I mainly want to get you to be able to see an exploded assembly here, right? But we will go ahead and make a movie of it real quick. So I can select the movie icon, which is here. Then I can choose how I want this to be, right? Typically, I'll use an MP4 video, and then I can go ahead and place it in this folder location, which is going to be fine. And once I hit the save button, let's just call it the valve. You can see it's kind of pulling up my old part files here that I do have. Let's go ahead and hit the save on that. And then I'll give it a second here. And you're going to see that it will and kind of produce this video. The reason why it's going so slowly is because, yeah, it's recording each one of those frames. I'll give it here another more second here. And it's just kind of disassembling these and putting it back together. Actually, I should have told it to go ahead and collapse it, and then that's when it'll stop. Because it'll keep going as long as I tell it to keep going. Okay. So at this point, it should be done. We do have that video file saved. All right. Let's go ahead and zoom into here. And then let's go ahead and have this thing sitting to be exploded. Once again, let me go ahead and make the isometric off of here. Alright, so at this point we do have an isometric view of it. We do have a video file that we do have created, and we have an exploded assembly. Now I'm ready to start producing the drawing. Now the drawing step of this one should be super easy for us. So I'm just going to come here to where this arrow kicks out. I'm going to go to File, and then I'm just going to make a drawing off of this assembly. Alright, so once I do that, it's going to say, hey, you need to save this file first. And of course, I'm going to give it a save. So I'll select here. And then I'll go ahead and save my file here as valve. I keep forgetting I have the cap lock on, which is totally okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as valve and hit the save button. Once it saves it, what should happen here is that it should open up the drawing. So it's going to ask me what template. Let's go ahead and make this on a B size. Let's hit the OK button. Give it a couple of seconds and it should produce a template for us here in a second, which it does. Now over here in the view palette, I do have the option of getting the exploded assembly view, or I can go and select it just off a regular view. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and click this exploded one. So I'm going to left click and drag it into my screen. All right. And so now here's my part. Here's some other options that I can do to it, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and adjust this scale of here. I'm going to use a custom scale, and I think I'll make it 1.75. So 1:1.75. Is that too big for us? Let's see. What about 0.5? Let's see. I want this thing to get a little bit smaller. I think I'm going the wrong way. All right, 2. Okay, that looks perfect. So I have it set to 1:2.5. Probably can get it a little bit bigger, but that's fine for what we need in our drawing. Let's go ahead and check this. Now you've seen that I brought in the assembly view of this, right? I mean the exploded view of it. I can also do a right click on this, and this is one of the features that I wish it did have over there in Solidworks, that I can kind of change this. I can show this as unexploded, right? So if I click here, it's going to collapse it. And if I want that to be back to be exploded, I can do a right click on it again, and I can show it in an exploded state. All right, so we do have both of those options here when we bring that in. Let's go to the drawing, and once again, I have some other different tabs up here at the top. If I go back to the basic drawing view tab, I can go to modeling view, or I can go to the drawing tab here. Either one will work. Remember how to bring those views in. If you do a right click here, go to tabs, you should be able to check them and bring them in. Okay, let's go ahead and bring in a modeling view. So I'll come here and click modeling view. And now it's looking for a drawing that it does have. So it has this one highlighted. Let's go over here to the side on the view panel here. And then I'll go ahead and select this trimetric. Or I can go with the isometric. I think I usually go isometric. Let's go isometric. Let's drag it here into the screen. Do a click there. And once again, we will make this a bigger size. So let's go ahead and change this size. And let's see what a 1:1 on this one looks like. I'm trying to debate and see how big our parts list is. Let's see, we might have to make it just a tad bit smaller. And let's make it a 1:1.5. Yeah, that looks a lot better. All right, so 1:1.5. That looks really good. All right, so now we have our exploded assembly view, and we do have an assembled view. We can actually go ahead and that same trick that I showed you before, if we wanted to make this one exploded, it's just as simple as doing a right click on it and then selecting the option of showing in an exploded state. Okay. Next thing I need to do is I want to go ahead and produce a bill of material. So here at the top, I do have a bill of material option. If we were underneath the drawing tab here, I think it's actually underneath the annotations, it will be under table and then bill of material. So either one of those will work. Let's go ahead and select bill of material. Give it a second here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and select this view here, and then it's going to give us some options. For what we need to do, we're just going to use a top level. We're going to leave it starting at 1. And then if we wanted to adjust the width and size of everything, and I'm actually scrolling in here, we can control it from here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and leave both of them set to 1 to 18. I think everything else is fine. If we wanted to change our template, we can, but I'm just going to use the BOM standard one. All right, let's go ahead and hit the check mark here. Now we should have a bill of material following us around. Now I'm going to place it here at this location. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Now, remember what I said when we was creating those parts is that whatever name that you name it, that's what it assumes the part file or the part number is going to be. So that's why you have it sitting here as the part number. Now we can just double click on the inside of this and we can also change this, right? So if I wanted to, I can change this to say description. Oh, got to put an in there. So I can make this say description, right? Which is kind of what we want this to be. We're going to do a right click on this column C here. So I do a left click and then a right click. I'll come to delete and then tell it column. All right. Let's go back to this. Let's go ahead and another click on it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and move the header here at the bottom. So I'm just going to select this icon here. Should flip it down there to the bottom. Let's go ahead and make this column B. Go ahead and make it a middle center justification. So that's a simple select there. And then we're going to stretch out some of these columns, right? So I'm just going to stretch this one out going this direction and give this one a little bit of stretch going this direction here. All right, so that looks good. And then finally, we'll just go ahead and move this over to the corner like so. All right. So I think we have our bill of material done. Then the last thing I need to show you is how to put balloons that are going around our view here. So we have this view, and you can already see I'm going to use the automatic balloon option here. We can use manual balloons. We just can select, and I'll show you that real quick. So if I go to the manual balloon, I can select this part. When I click on it and then do one more click, you will see that it will indeed associate it with the parts list. You can see that this is called the valve nut. That's what I named that file. And it's going to also point to it and do that. If we don't want it to do that, or we had multiple parts or a lot of different parts, we do have this automatic balloon option. So if I go to automatic balloon, it's going to ask me the exact same thing again. It's going to say, hey, go ahead and select the view. And now you're going to see I get options of how I want this to be controlled, right? So depending on how we want this to look, you do have these automatic balloons. I can tell it that I want them all going on one side or at the top, you know, the bottom here, left or right. We do have an option to send it around there kind of randomly, and that's kind of the way that I would like to do it. Or we can do it this way. Now, while we have these bubbles highlighted this different color, we can also left click and drag these, and you're going to see that it will affect all of the balloons, right? Let's go ahead and put it back on this one that's kind of going around it on random sides. Another good option for this one, since everything is in a straight line, is also putting them all to one side. And then once again, we do have that option where we can kind of play with them all and kind of move them in. And that looks good to me. Once we're done with this, let's go ahead and hit the check mark here to accept it. And it looks like we have all of our balloons placed where we need them. All right, I think that is gonna kind of cover it for this video. Let's go ahead and make sure we got everything situated. Let's see. Did I actually change this view? That's what I'm kind of looking at here. It's kind of doing some weird looking stuff here. There we go. Just kind of reset it. All right, so anyway, thank you for tuning in and watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you learned something here with working in SolidWorks. This has been a kind of completion to a part 4 series. So remember that what we did was we created each one of these parts that you do see on the screen. We created an assembly file. We have a movie file that we created, and we also created a drawing. Now you can go into much more detail on this one by bringing in each one of those parts and doing more dimensional things of that nature. But for the scope of this drawing, all I wanted to do was get you to how to create an assembly and an exploded assembly drawing from what we have. Okay, so hopefully I appreciate you watching this video. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed watching these kind of series videos, especially when it comes to kind of seeing something from start to end. But anyway, I appreciate you coming back. As always, thank you for tuning in to this channel. Thank you for watching. Keep drafting, and I will definitely see you in the next video.